Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Let's be honest, big corporations now own Washington, D.C., and increasingly they control and monetize every aspect of our lives. I'm running for president because I want to take back their power and put it back where it belongs, in your hands. Now, when you say that you're going to return power to the people and you actually mean it, some very powerful forces get scared, and then they get angry. That explains the corporate media's outrage against me. But let's be clear, what they're really frightened of is you. They're terrified of the idea that Americans will be back in charge of their country. My opponents have Wall Street, they have big tech, big pharma, big ag, and the defense contractors. But I've got something that's potentially much more powerful than all those vested interests. I have you. We're never going to match the billions that they get from corporate contributors, but with millions of small donations, we're mounting a campaign that has them running scared. And I need you to keep going. So today, I'm breaking with fundraising conventional wisdom. Most campaigns don't share their fundraising goals publicly because they don't want to be embarrassed. But we're not like most campaigns. We are your campaign. We want to raise $5 million before midnight, September 30th, to fund our ground operations across the country. That may sound like a lot, but I'm confident that we can get it done. Please consider giving today. Give $5 or $50 or $500 if you can afford it. And if you can't, and volunteer and help us expand our army across 50 states. Thank you for stepping up. Let's take back our country, and God bless America.
I'm Gavin D. Becker. You can obviously learn more about me from Wikipedia or any other online source, but I want to give you a very quick introduction. I advise governments and at-risk individuals on anti-assassination strategies. I'm a 3-time presidential appointee. I served 2 terms on the President's Advisory Board at Department of Justice. I designed mosaic systems, threat assessment systems that are used to screen threats to justices of the Supreme Court and members of Congress. I developed threat assessment systems used by the U.S. Marshals Service and by state police agencies protecting governors in 12 states. My best-selling books on preventing violence are now published in 21 languages. You get the idea. My company provides protection services for many at-risk public figures, including for my dear friend and now presidential candidate, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It's odd that we're protecting him because since 1968, presidential candidates get Secret Service protection. That started immediately after Senator Robert Kennedy, Bobby's father, was assassinated at a campaign event. Immediately, Secret Service began protecting candidates, and by Election Day that year, 12 candidates were getting protection. But the Biden administration has refused to afford Secret Service protection to Bobby Kennedy Jr. Now, an important note here, the Secret Service itself has been helpful and professional, and I have no complaint with them. They stand ready to provide the protection, but the Biden administration says no. Now, what's happened during the long months that the administration has failed to protect this candidate is super alarming, and I'm going to share just a couple of incidents that have already been public. A few weeks ago, a mentally ill intruder entered Bobby's home demanding to see the candidate, and he was arrested. It wasn't the first time that same man had been arrested for Kennedy-related intrusions. More significantly, last week, a man showed up outside a campaign event where Bobby was going to speak. And protectors from my company were observing him, and they were ready when the man went to a side entrance, identified himself as federal law enforcement, and ordered our protectors with intensity, "Take me to Kennedy immediately. I have to see him right now." When protectors saw that this man was carrying a handgun, they removed him from the area, isolated him, surrounded him, LAPD was called, and we handed over custody when the police arrived, and the man was arrested. In his backpack, which we screened for explosives, were more handguns, knives, and extra ammunition. A second man who'd driven him to the campaign event was also taken into custody by police. Obviously, the incident is very, very alarming. We now know that he's a strident QAnon follower, and to help us guess what he was planning, we reviewed everything we could find online and began quite an investigation. There's a TikTok video that he posted just weeks ago, trying out that special new outfit that he was wearing when he made the approach at Bobby's speech with the handgun and had a fake federal badge. At one point in the video, he calls himself God's gangster. Referring to his readiness, he says, Shit, I got it all. Now, on this video, he spells out his name super carefully, letter by letter. And he says, you'll know who you're fucking with. Near the end of the video, he says, take care of each other, and then adds his most chilling words, if I don't make it back. Now, the risk in this incident doesn't take an expert, it's obvious. And despite knowing everything that I've shared with you and knowing much more alarming material that's contained in a detailed 67-page threat assessment the government received, the administration still hasn't responded to the campaign's second formal request for protection. What are they waiting for? So with all that background, I'm reaching out to you today in what is probably the most unusual fundraising request ever in presidential politics. It's because they've refused to provide Secret Service protection that 30 cents of every dollar donated to RFK Jr.'s campaign has to go to security. Normally, none of it would. I would gladly pay for it all myself. He's my dear friend, and I'd like him to win. But it's not allowed. It would be considered a campaign contribution above the limit, and I've already made my campaign contribution. But you can help. You can help to continue the best level of security that we can accomplish for my dear friend through donating to his campaign. It is crazy that we have to ask the public to provide protection, but that's where we are.
I wonder what would happen if Robert Kennedy Jr. got in there. I'm very interested to see what happens with that guy.
Yeah. Like, how are we going to get a better Democrat if you don't let the president debate? So they won't let him debate because Robert Kennedy Jr. and Robert Kennedy Jr.'s
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Robert Kennedy Jr.'s
Right.
book, The Real Anthony Fauci. Holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
You know, and there's the idea that, like, Robert Kennedy would be too silver-tongued, like, stop, come on. Because he's a lawyer, you know, and he's really good arguing stuff. Like, YouTube is going, ever since he decided to run for president, they're taking these interviews that have been up for a year plus, and they're taking them down. If RFK Jr. becomes the president, all those people working for Biden are gone, right? They know that. What do you think of RFK Jr.?
I like him personally. I've been interviewed by him.
He's a fascinating guy.
You've interviewed him, right?
Yeah, I really enjoyed talking to him. What's really important is his work as an environmental attorney. What he did with the Hudson River. They cleaned up the Hudson River. So a lot of it based on him winning cases.
Yep.
And he really cares about people. He genuinely does. I think he's a good person. I really do.
Would you vote for him?
Yeah, I'd vote for him. Yeah, I would.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and I spend a lot of my time thinking about how to take back power from the corporations who run Washington, D.C., how to unravel corporate capture, fix broken government, and restore democracy. I'm not the only candidate who talks about challenging corporate power, but I am the only one running that's actually done it. I've spent my entire career fighting and beating big corporations and making them pay for poisoning our air, polluting our rivers, destroying our landscapes, and harming Americans. As an environmental attorney, I've beaten everyone from Monsanto to Mobil and the U.S. government on multiple occasions. A lot of my work has been cleaning up rivers and streams and lakes just like this one. I sent you a video from in front of this beautiful lake a few days ago. I asked you to help me raise $5 million to continue my lifelong fight for people, for the health, for the wildlife, and landscapes of our country. I'm so grateful that so many of you responded. But we still need to do a little better if we're going to reach our $5 million goal by the end of this quarter. I'm grateful to all those political leaders who talk about draining the swamp and about taking back the power from the corporations who've hijacked our democracy. But the rhetoric is the easy part. I have the actual experience to unravel corporate capture and fix Washington. I hope that you'll help me get there. Please go to Kennedy24.com today and donate. We have until midnight, September 30th, to reach our goal. God bless you, and God bless America.
I'm watching Newsmax yesterday, and I see this
Mirage Air, a large plane, landed at one of the airports just outside New York City here yesterday. And it's President Raisi, the Iranian president, getting off the plane. And he's got several people from Iran that are part of his delegation. But I see these guys wearing suits with earpieces and sunglasses, Kelly. And I think to myself, geez, they can only be U.S. Secret Service. So a quick Google search, and I realized that the Biden administration gave the Iranian president, who's speaking at the UN in Midtown Manhattan a little bit later this morning, Secret Service protection, but is refusing to give Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whose father, former New York Senator, former Attorney General, was shot by Sirhan Sirhan at the Ambassador Hotel 1968 June in California, is refusing him Secret Service protection. Take a look at this headline. This is the Daily Caller yesterday. RFK Jr. has begged the Biden administration for Secret Service protection. The man arrested on Friday, this past Friday, so 5 days ago, allegedly possessed loaded pistols and spare magazines and posed as a U.S. Marshal. This, according to Kennedy's team. The man identified himself as a member of Kennedy's security. No, he was there to kill RFK Jr. And Joe Biden and the Biden administration is willing to give the president of Iran, death to America, the president of Iran, Secret Service taxpayer-funded protection, but RFK Jr., who's primarying Joe Biden here in the U.S., can't get it. Kelly.
No, this is absolutely incredible, but it shows you how petty the Biden administration is. Look at how terrible the Democrats are being to fellow Democrat Robert F. Kennedy, because he simply wants an open primary process. He simply wants to get his voice out there, and he wants to kind of broaden the Democratic message. But he is being denied simple Secret Service protection when this isn't a huge ask from him. All, presidential candidates get one. He's got history on his side. Political targets his family have been political targets in the past. So this would be a no-brainer to me, just to extend for the Biden administration, just to extend an olive branch to their fellow Democrat, Robert F. Kennedy, but they are not doing so because they resent him so much for actually getting into this primary and challenging Joe Biden.
Yeah, I'll add, I agree with Kelly in that I think RFK Jr. should have protection. But so should the Iranian president. I mean, the last thing that we want is for any problem on U.S. soil for a leader of another country. I don't care who it is. We just don't want that type of a problem here. And that is a courtesy that, by the way, American diplomats and American politicians get when they go overseas. No, Germany, France, it doesn't matter. Nobody wants that problem.
You're ambassador to Germany for 3 years. I get it. But let's say Friday this guy broke through security and he wasn't picked up and he shoots RFK Jr. in the head. All right, yeah, the former president, John F. Kennedy, killed by an assassin's bullet. His father, Bobby. Yeah. Joe Biden's got a bust of Bobby Kennedy in the Oval Office. Imagine if he was shot on
Especially
Friday.
On the
Imagine
tradition.
the optics for the Biden administration, how petty and small, because that's what this is all about. They are trying to not so covertly send the Kennedy team a message. You don't primary our guy.
Well, I also go back to the fact that, remember, they are an academic institution, the White House.
Right.
You're not supposed to get protection until you become the nominee. And so they're sticking to this academic viewpoint of what is supposed to happen. They are not ever getting the reality of the situation of RFK Jr. is literally under assault.
Can I just quickly, and Kelly, I want to get your reaction. So 1972, Bobby's killed in 68. Everyone thought, including Richard Nixon and his team, Nixon was president, everyone thought Teddy Kennedy was going to run in 72. Chappaquiddick happens in 69. Ted's a mess. He doesn't run. Nixon gave Teddy Kennedy Secret Service protection.
Yeah,
he wasn't even an announced candidate. Fast forward the clock 10 years, 1980. Ted Kennedy primaries Jimmy Carter. And guess who's got Secret Service protection that the Carter administration granted? Ted Kennedy.
I feel like the White House makes exceptions for certain things that they want to make exceptions for. You know, they kind of just make their own rules.
Great point.
And
They make their own rules.
They decide what they want to do.
I mean, if RFK wants Secret Service protection, his last name's Kennedy, he's running for president, you got it. All right, you got it. You lost your uncle and your dad. You got it.
What we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not hatred. What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another.
Every nation has a darker side, and the easiest thing for a politician to do is to appeal to our hatred and our anger and our bigotry and greed and xenophobia and all of the alchemies of demagoguery. My father and my uncle had a vision for America, a vision of racial harmony, of prosperity for all Americans, of peace in the world, and of honest government. Their lives were tragically cut short, and America took a different path. Yet the possibility they foresaw is still alive, the America that almost was and yet may be. I've been fighting corporate corruption my entire life, but I understand that today the problem is much larger than a few crooked individuals. The problem is a system that no longer serves the people, and a people who are so divided and so fearful that they are easily ruled. It's time to unlearn the reflexes of fear and blame and find ways to unify ourselves and turn our country around. I won't pretend to you that it will be easy, but I know what it will take. My father said it: love, wisdom, and compassion toward one another, and that's where we need to start. We will scale down the war machine and bring our resources home. We will rebuild our water systems, repair our roads, modernize our railroads, and clean up our environment. We will also clean up government and earn back the people's trust. We will end the secrecy, the censorship, and the surveillance. We will again be a fearless land of liberty.
The cost of freedom is always high, but Americans have always paid it.
We will face honestly the darker parts of our history, the genocide, the racism, not to shame or blame or punish, but to repair as best we can in a spirit of compassion and kindness toward all. I'm inviting all of you to join me to create an America that we can believe in and be proud of again. I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and I'm running for President of the United States.